It's not my fault. You've been lying, saying that I took away your peace. Drowning by yourself, now you wanna blame me. Like you have no options. I ain't take your options. Nah, I'm not the problem. Man, that's on you, yeah. You've been terrorizing me, yeah, I'm always wrong. I knew you lost your mind when you dropped that bomb. Girl, are you crazy? Yeah, you must be crazy. I've been thinking lately it's you.
It's you. Hey, what it do? It's your boy Simply Talking with a special episode of Simply Talking Podcast on a Monday night. Conversations with Miss Genevieve Murphy.
You got it. What's up, y'all?
What's going on? We got Miss Confidence in the building. How you doing tonight, Miss Confidence?
I am beautiful in Chi-Town, so new scene for me tonight.
You up in Chi-Town? What you doing in Chi-Town? Be careful out there.
Working. You know, I ain't scared. I ain't worried about nothing. So, but it's beautiful out here. I'm loving it.
You a soldier, huh?
Soldier.
Miss Murphy, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing. It's Monday, so this time change whooping my ass. But other than that, I'm doing.
Yeah.
Hey, it's beating both of us up.
Yeah, like Kunta Kinte.
Man, I like the time change. You get more sleep.
You get less sleep.
No. You get more.
You sleep all the time anyway. So
He ain't got no small children in the house. That's why.
Hey, definitely. I'm gonna get my sleep.
He sure. The other time I'll be like, "What you doing?" He be like, "Oh, I'm about to take a nap. I just got off work. I'm gonna take a shower. I'm going to take a nap." I'll be like, "Dang."
I wake up chasing naps and don't never catch one.
Well, he gonna catch his, and not only that, Genevieve. He take like 2-3 naps a day.
He must be taking the naps I be trying to catch. That's why I can't never catch him. Simply done already got him.
Nah, them my naps. They on me.
Can we
All right, so give the people a little bit of information on your father's advocate position.
Okay. So my father's advocate position is one of necessity. I remember when you and I were first kind of talking about it, and one of the things you asked me was what motivates me to do it. And I'll be honest, I was not motivated to do it. It was one of those things that when you're in the thick of the fight, you know, whatever side of the fight that you're on, because we all know there's his side, her side, and the truth. But whatever side of the fight you're on, when you in the fight, you're like, damn, I wish somebody had my back, or I wish I knew what was going on. I wish I could reach out to somebody and things like that. And so I've actually been in the fight on 3 different sides, and all 3 times I found myself thinking, damn, I wish I had somebody to bounce ideas off of. I wish I had somebody that, you know, could talk to me like I mattered and would listen to me like I mattered. And so I became that person, you know, for the next person. So
Got you. So how do you view the father's role in society today?
irreplaceable and necessary. In fact, we're at a point now where if you can't see that we need dads, then you worse off than Stevie Wonder. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm also a school teacher, so I see the kids in my home. I see the kids in y'all's homes, and you can tell the kids that don't have that direction, and not necessarily a father by way of biology, but just a father figure, a strong male figure, somebody that they're not constantly seeing beat down or talk negatively about, and getting that hypocritical view of men. And so it's necessary in whatever form we can get it in. These babies need daddies.
Definitely. So what do you say about the women that say that they don't need no man to
They
be
might
no
not,
father?
they might not, but their kids do. And I mean, it's as simple as that. You know, when I became a mother, that became part of who I was. It wasn't, and I'm the first to say, you know, people joke around, fuck them kids. I'm the first to say that, you know what I'm saying? Like a being a mother is not my whole identity, but it is definitely a role that I took on. And while I may not need a man by myself, my kids need a father. You see what I'm saying? And it's not even in the aspect of what a man can physically do or financially provide or whatever the case may be, but everybody needs more than one view when they're being raised and when they're being taught something. Even in the classroom, I tell my kids, if you don't believe me, check. Find somebody else, you know, find either a contrary belief or find a supporting belief if you don't believe me. Like I always tell people, you need more than one view on how to live your life. And that comes from having a two-parent household, whether it's two dads, two moms, you know, whatever the case may be. But it's a necessary point of a child, whether the woman needs it or not. And most women that say that, they probably never had it. Because again, you don't know what you don't need if you've never had it.
That's a fact. That's a fact. So you got any personal stories that the reason that make this very important to you?
I mean, I could talk for hours about why it's important to me personally. It started out with my dad. My dad was a single father. I was raised by my stepmom and my dad towards the end of my rearing, but my mom left when we were young, which, as you know, that's the untold story. That's the people love to say that kind of stuff never happens, but here we are in the 80s and 90s in the South, and my mother left my dad, and I distinctly remember being 8, 9 years old and being in court with my dad, and even the judge saying, "Just let the mom have her and pay child support." Like, why are you fighting for these kids? You know how hard it's going to be a single dad, and literally discouraging my dad to do what he knew to do. And it ended up, because my dad is military, I'm military. It ended up that because of the length of my parents' marriage, my mother gets to keep part of his retirement. And so the way that they, I guess, split the baby was her child support was supposed to be in the amount of his retirement that she was getting. So basically, you know, she gets nothing. So you get, you know, say $100 part of his retirement, but you have to pay $100 in child support. To this day, she's never paid a dime, not a dime. And there was 3 of us growing up. So you calculate 10 years for 3 children worth of child support that she's never paid. Now, even as adults, we've gone to the courts on behalf of our father and said, hey, there she go right there. If you need to find her, if you need arrears or whatever the case may be, there she is right there. They contacted my father and tried to haul him in because they see the man's name on the paperwork and assumed he was the one in the arrears. And we had to go back and say, wait, no. The arrears is the woman in this situation. The non-custodial parent is the woman in this situation. And do you know, to this day, she has not had to pay a dime. They have her updated address. They have her updated. She's getting my father's military benefits and has never paid a dime to help my father financially. It is what it is. So then I get married and get divorced, which technically makes me a baby mama. My ex-husband's not on child support, because here's the thing. I could have left the kids with him. Let's just be honest. Whether he was a better parent or I was a better parent, the nobility of women to always assume the kids got to come with me. I got to take that burden. You don't. You really don't. Like, let these niggas have it. You see what I'm saying? Like, if it's really going to be that much of a burden to you mentally or physically, then let them go where they need to go. But I've always felt like, on one hand, I can't leave the marriage and leave the household because it's not safe for me mentally, but then say, okay, I'm gonna leave the kids. But on the flip side of that, nigga, if I don't need you, I don't need you. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna put a third party in our life for them to tell you something you already know. You know these kids need shoes. You know these kids need to eat. But again, the reason why we're not married anymore is because you weren't doing this as my husband. So why would I think that it's going to change now that you're not my husband? You see what I'm saying? So for me, it was my mental health and my ability to raise my children in a healthy environment that said, you know what? You got it. You got it. Do what you have to do over there. And I'm gonna have to do what I do over here. And I'm not gonna spend the time, the anguish, and the issues to fight for a couple $100 just to put a price tag on my kid's head for you then to be angry with me for, you know, all the drama and everything that happened. And in all honesty, me and my ex-husband have a very amicable relationship. Like we don't talk about each other. We don't talk to each other outside of the kids. The kids are old enough now to where they talk to him and they're able to ask for stuff that they need or want. And it's simple. Like it, and they see their father for who he is. They see me for who I am. And it is what it is. But then on the other side of things, when I got remarried, I remarried a man who had children before we got married. We got married in July 7th. By July 15th, we were summoned to the court for child support. He had never been on child support a day of his child's life. Not one day. And it just so happens the week that we get married, now all of a sudden we're in child support court. But here's the issue. You have 2 other kids with 2 other men. None of them are on child support. My husband now makes a significant amount of money, as do I. And one of your requests was that the total household income was calculated into the support. But although I work for the state and so does my husband, we were not a safe enough household that she could even be with us. You see the issue there? And the courts wrote the document without us even being there and put it in place without my husband even signing it. And they started docking his pay without any acknowledgement from the third party. That's how jacked up the system. That's 3 different instances where the system has failed to do a job they were supposed to do. So we then have to ask ourselves, is the system broke or is it working like it's supposed to? And we're just not catching on. Because again, the least amount of conflict I've had in all 3 of these situations is to let a dog bark.
Mm-hmm.
I chose to, because this is the thing. As a woman, can't nobody make me a baby mama. Period, point blank. There's too many things out here between condoms, birth control, abortions, whatever you want to call it. Can't nobody make me a baby mama. Physically. Mentally, damn sure can't nobody make me a baby mama. And so that's where it is. But as soon as something goes wrong, when we run to a third party being a system that was already broken and is already set up against us, what do we expect to happen? Now here we are in this epidemic of broken homes, and I can't go to Cheesecake Factory on a first date, but you got 3 kids at home. Make it make sense.
Agreed.
That's a fact.
I have a question.
What's up, girl?
Did y'all ever fix your husbands with the court, with the child support? How can they legally do that?
So, and I can't speak too much on it specifically because of there being a gag order. That's a whole nother story. The issue is he signed the birth certificate at birth without a DNA test. In the state of Texas, we live in Louisiana, but she lives in Texas. In the state of Texas, you only have until the child is 4 to contest paternity. So when we got married and we started having children of our own, some health issues came up. And the doctor was like, look, we have to do these tests, and these tests because you guys are going to have a hard time having kids. My husband said, I've never had an issue having kids. I got a kid now. And the doctor said, no, you don't. Ain't no way. So we then petitioned the court for a DNA test, provided the medical records saying, look, there's a really good chance that this is not what it is. And because we were past the statute of limitations, they denied it and said, too bad, she's legally your child now, and you will pay until she is 18. So that's that.
Boy, that is unfair.
It's unfair, and that's the law.
But
But
that
it's
happens
lawful.
to a lot of people.
It's unfair, but
Happens
it's
to a
lawful.
lot of people. Yeah.
And
So
the craziest
child
thing
support.
about, go ahead.
No, child support is not the state that the dad is in. It's the state. I mean, it's the state that I guess the parent is in.
It's the state that the child lives in, the state that the child is a resident in. And so where I live at in Louisiana is like right on the Texas border. Like Texas is literally 20 minutes away. But Texas has stricter child support laws. And so when it happened, she moved and filed over there.
She knew. Somehow she knew.
Uh-huh. And again, you got two other fathers to your two other children, and none of them are on child support.
She probably ain't gonna never move from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Jealous.
Oh, she's big jealous.
Jealous of the marriage.
But let's be honest. For those of us that have been married, baby, what is you jealous for? This shit is work too. Shit. I got somebody to take out the trash on trash day. But shit, this nigga need gravy cooked from scratch. He like his toenails clipped every Tuesday. Like, come on now.
Mm-hmm.
You jealous of extra work.
You clipping toenails?
Hey, if Mr. Murphy need his toenails clipped.
All right, Mr. Murphy.
Toenails.
Look.
Oh.
But ask me if I pay a mortgage note. Do not.
I know
So
that's
will I
right.
clip some toenails? I will. Yes, I
Clip
will.
them straight and perfect too. File them too, right?
Look, can you hear me?
What?
Can you hear me?
I don't have no issues with massaging a man's feet or clipping toenails. So
Yeah.
Send
I
his
don't
ass
like
there to punch that clock. So go on and get comfortable while you at the house.
I don't like
Simply
feet.
say he don't like feet.
No
Yeah.
birthday foot rub coming up?
Nah.
I wonder what your feet look like.
They beautiful. I don't like them.
I got $5 simply. Let me see it.
Oh, nah.
He must got, if he pull them feet out, if he pull them up, he must got already looking
Right, because he preparing for his birthday.
Oh, he's taking his sock off too.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm
He ain't
not.
pulling nobody.
Oh, he probably got 5 ones.
So all right, let's get off my feet and get back to these fathers, man.
Let's get back to these fathers.
All right. So what do you believe is some of the misconceptions about fathers?
That they're
hold on,
inept.
before you answer that,
Okay.
do you think like a lot of times that women like weaponize the father, like tell the kid if you don't do this, you're gonna go live with your father, like it's a bad thing? Do you think that happens a lot?
Oh, for sure. For sure. And it's crazy because I never lived with my mother, but even she would say stuff like that. And I'd be like, but I don't even stay here. Like, that is my house. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, or even using divisive terms like your father's house and our house. Like, both of these are your house. Like, you happen to have two houses. Like, I don't know, nigga, consider yourself rich. You got two different houses. But one thing you'll see a lot of times is even using simple language that is actually really divisive and saying, oh, you got to go to your daddy's house this weekend. No, you have to go to your house this week. That's still your house. If it's your daddy's house and you are your daddy's child, that is your house. But when the mom calls her home our home or the kids' home or whatever, and you talk about the dad's house as if it's some vacation spot or some prison sentence or something like that, you're putting those divisive terms into the child's head, and it breaks that cohesion whether you're trying to do it or not.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you can answer the question now. My bad.
So that was what the biggest misconception of fathers?
Yeah.
Is that they're inept or that they don't want to? And I
So you
say
think a lot.
that, and I say that to me, even my ex-husband. Now my ex-husband is he's still a hoochie daddy. He a hoochie daddy. He a hot boy. And I look, do what you got to do. He's gonna be one of them niggas in a Cadillac with some rims, and he's still at the club. Like that's who he is.
What's the hoochie daddy? What's that? Them some clothes, ain't it?
Yeah, well, you know them hoochie daddies be trying. That's what they call them. How y'all are now? With y'all trying to get all them hoochies. You got a hoochie mama and a hoochie daddy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So
That's that down south stuff. We
yeah,
on the East
he's
Coast.
still a hoochie daddy, but like I've never, even when we were married and had small kids, I never took the lead with the child rearing. I always thought that was weird. Like, oh, I mean, because I breastfed. So for me, it was like, nigga, I birthed this child and I breastfed. So yeah, you can change this diaper. Yeah, you can, give a bath or make the food or whatever the case may be. And if as long as what I found, and maybe it's the teacher in me, but even with both husbands that I've had, I found that if you just let a nigga do it, he'll do it. Like it's not, you don't, people always talk about, oh, being a mother is natural and men have to learn how to be fathers. They don't. Like you can't on one hand say that the man in your home is your protector and your provider and the king of your household, but he don't know how to take care of the kids because the kids are part of the household. And so just like with my husband now, like the other day, he reminded me of one of our kids' dentist appointments because it happened to be on one of his off days. Like I've never been one of those women that's like, okay, I've got to schedule all of their appointments on my off days, or I've got to be the one to take off work if the kids are sick. Like we literally, if the kids get sick, we sit in the room with paper, rock, scissors. Okay, who's staying home? Or who's gonna, or you think logically, like who's gonna make more money? Because like with me, I'm also retired military, so I can make money not having to leave my house. And so there are some days that the kids get sick and I'll be the one to stay home. But if my husband already doesn't have something to do that day, why would it make sense for me to stay home and miss out on extra money when he's already going to be at home? But people always think that women are the default parent, which also gives them what's the syndrome, golden womb syndrome, where you feel like just because I have the womb, I'm automatically the better parent. But it's like that's not always the case, because that also puts the burden on you as the woman to have to do everything. And Black women, we are tired. Like I already got to be everything to everybody else outside the house. So when I get home, if this nigga want to make these kids chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese, that's fine. They can eat that. But I think that's the biggest misconception on dads, is that they don't know how to naturally parent their children, and they do. They really do. But I also think that where that comes from is because men are less likely to put up with bullshit and parent, and they will most likely choose to step away from parenting when the bullshit comes. And so that makes it seem like, oh, he don't want to be a daddy. No, he just don't want to deal with all the extra bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like us women, we will deal with the extra bullshit just to be able to say we're a good mom. We'll deal with the baby mama drama and the baby daddy drama, and we'll go to a job that we don't like, and we'll self-sacrifice and blah, 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 just to say we're a good mom. A man ain't gonna do that. But that doesn't make him the bad guy. That actually makes him a little bit smarter in some cases. Because again, I'm not going to deal with the bullshit and have to parent, because I can't be the best parent I can if I'm always having to deal with bullshit. And so when men step away from bullshit situations because they can't parent and bullshit at the same time, are they really the villain, or are they really the smarter character in the story?
Yeah, because the first thing people say is, oh, he walked away, but they never talk about how the woman drove him away.
Or I would fight for my kid till the end of time, but would you have to? Because ain't nobody making you fight for your kid. So you can't say that that's what you would do when you've never been put in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like when white people be like, oh, if I were a slave. You can't say that because you've never been put in that position, and you probably never will be. So for us, even as women, you can't be like, oh, I would fight for my child and blah, blah, blah. But would you? Because how many situations do you hear of where a woman literally has to go to court just to have her name put on somebody's birth certificate? Never.
I agree. I agree. I have a question. Do you think that women play games with men because they separate from them and they move on? They're happy. I mean, with the kids, and do you see like the fathers? I mean, for me personally, I think some kids should be with the dads because some of these dads take better care of kids than the mothers.
Listen, if something don't work out with me and Mr. Murphy, he keeping the kids. Understand that. He's the better parent. Yes, and I will be, you see me every other weekend. And I do think that women play games, but I don't always think it's intentional. I think
Mm,
that when you don't learn emotional maturity, when you don't learn effective communication styles and stuff like that, it'll come off as playing a game or it will turn into a game. And it's simply because neither one of y'all know what you're doing.
hmm
Because if you want to even go deeper, a lot of women are upset about relationships that ended after the kid was born when it wasn't a relationship to begin with. Y'all were just seeing each other a lot and hunching, and you got pregnant, and then you tried to
Yeah,
make it
mention.
work. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not like
Yeah.
if you really do an evaluation, just like with me with my first marriage, I don't like, I'm not an angry person. Like, I'm not upset about that marriage because when I look at it, we should never got married in the first place. Like,
hmm
that wasn't something that we should have done. Like, we were military and we got pregnant. It was like, okay, he's going to Japan, I'm going here, let's get married. And then it was like, oh shit, now we married, let's try to make it work. And we was both on some hoe shit. Like, and we both were like, I'm not gonna sit there and say, oh, he cheated and blah blah blah. No, he cheated and I cheated, and he cheated back and I cheated back, and everything else. And and so it was a compound of whatever. And at the time, my feelings were hurt because that's inevitable. But then when you sit back and you have that emotional maturity, it'd be like, girl, what the hell was you doing married in the first place?
hmm You
Because
wasn't for me.
you was on some hoe shit, he was on some hoe shit. Y'all both could have been a mom and a dad and been on some hoe shit without being married and could have cut those emotional ties before it got this deep. But now here you are, at the VA getting mental health care because you strung out over a nigga that you didn't really like to begin with. Like, if you really sit down and think about it, you didn't like him. Like, y'all weren't even compatible. But
hmm
now that y'all have a baby, now you try to make it seem like it's more than it is. And now it's this tit for tat and it's this big game, and it's fucking exhausting when it doesn't even have to be.
So you think that that emotional attachment is the child?
The emotional attachment is a child, but that also becomes the trigger for the parent
hmm
because now you look just like your fucking daddy.
Yes, and then some women actually treat the kids
Yeah.
bad because they look like the
Yep.
daddy.
hmm And I'll even be honest and say that growing up, that was a big issue between me and my dad. A big issue because I look, out of all three of us, I look the most like my mom. And I distinctly remember, and I'm so grateful for the man that my dad is because he was not without making mistakes, but he was not without apology either. And I distinctly remember one time as a teenager, I caught an attitude with him. And he went to raise his hand to whoop me because I'm his child. But in that moment, he said, "You look just like your fucking mother." And he stopped himself. Not because I didn't need my ass beat, because I did, but because he had the emotional maturity to say, she does deserve her ass beat, but right now I'm not whooping her. I'm trying to whoop my ex-wife. And so I need to stop.
Because he probably would have hurt you.
He probably would have beat the shit out of me.
Yeah.
He probably would have hurt me real, real bad. I mean, I'm little. I'm 5'3", 150 pounds on a good day. and my dad is 6'3", so he didn't even have to be mad to hurt me. You know what I'm saying? Like, but in that moment, if he hadn't have stopped me and me unknowingly being a trigger for him, and again, that's not something I can help. Just like it's not something my kids can help or anything else. But at the end of the day, if you as a parent don't have that emotional maturity, you are going to end up treating that child like the nigga that left you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, and that's crazy how people use children to, you know what I mean, to hurt other people. Now
Mm-hmm.
you got a lot of men out here that ain't, like you said, ain't really worrying about, you know what I'm saying, being a father or whatever, but it seems like the ones that do is the ones that get the short end of the stick.
Oh yeah, because my daddy was one of them. I mean, my mother played games with my dad. I remember when it was long vacations. Oh, it was good. She get that week break, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it was him, because he wanted to be a part, he wanted to be a part of my life. But I remember looking out the window, screaming, "Daddy!" And she like, I want to see my daughter. She like, you ain't seeing your daughter. She telling me to get out the window. And then when my dad leave, he gone. But I created a resentment towards my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and when with my behavior issues, when I got too bad, then she sent me with my dad. But what that causes is, and which was a good thing, because if she didn't, I would have been down Orange County somewhere. So it was a good move, but a bad move, because I think if my dad was in my life consistently, that maybe those behavior issues would have been different. But you threw me on a man that had to change his entire life overnight, that he was used to, doing different things. But as I got older, probably about a year ago, I told my dad, I understand you had no choice but to make that decision, because
Mm-hmm.
my mother was putting you through abuse when I was younger. I didn't understand it, but I told him, and it caused a separation in our relationship. So it's hard to have a relationship with your dad when you having behavioral issues, when you thrown on him, but you have memories of trips. So it's like, oh, he in my life, oh, he out of my life. But what people don't realize, it traumatizes the kid too. When
And then sending you to your dad's after you've messed up
mhm,
makes your dad's house the consequence,
yeah,
aka the prison,
mhm,
which that's not what that's supposed to be. Your dad's house is supposed to be just as safe as your mom's house.
mhm,
And when it's like, all right, you done fucked up, I don't want you anymore, I'm gonna send you somewhere else, and that somewhere else ends up being your other parent's house, you like, wait, what is this? And
mhm,
that, like you said, that's traumatizing, because then it's like, well, dang, my mama don't want me because I'm acting out, but now she done sent me over here as a punishment. But that's supposed to be my dad. And so now you almost can't trust your dad, even if he had been, you know, ready and willing to do everything and blah, blah, blah. You almost can't trust that either, because it's like, but wait, this is supposed to be a punishment because I wasn't acting right over here. So now you over here being nice or whatever the case may be. Now what's this all about? Now you become suspicious of people who really do have your best interest at heart because of what happened.
But see, with me, my mother sent me there. If she didn't send me there, see, I was a troubled child. So I was in and out of the system from 12 to 16. So if she didn't send me there, I would have been there down Orange County
Mm-hmm.
on a farm yard somewhere, right? Probably milking cows. But my dad tried to have a relationship with me. I mean, he gave me everything. He had a phone line hooked up for me. He had my bedroom ready. Like, I had everything myself, but I had a resentment towards him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and not even that, like, even getting there, like, I found out I got other siblings, and that's an even more resentment. Is like, dang, you got other siblings I don't know about them. And even being, I remember a lady calling me. It was like, his other baby mama, that baby mama stuff. And I pick up the phone, all she hears is a female voice, but this is a child you're talking to.
Oh, and she went off.
You owe me. First, called. I picked up the phone. I remember this like this was yesterday. And I was like, hello. And then it kind of paused. Click. She hung up on me, waited a few minutes, called back, and she was like, hello. Is Larry good? I was like, no, he not here. I had a little smart mouth too that. Oh, he owes me child support. Click. I was like, child support? Hold up. It's another child. So that's
Right.
another resentment added on top of that. Right? So yeah.
But then, and then, like, you grow up and you realize, well, damn, daddy couldn't stop living his life just because he couldn't be my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first couple years of me being married to my husband now, I didn't take family pictures. We didn't go on vacations. We didn't do the stuff that I always normally did because we were missing that one child, and it was like, well, I don't want to take family pictures because what is it going to look like? People knowing that there's 5 kids, but there's only 4 kids in the picture, or, how is she going to feel knowing if we went to Disney World and she didn't get to go and blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, it's not my fault that she's being kept because like I said, when all that came out with the DNA test, now all of a sudden our house is unsafe and we've stopped getting access to the child at all. Like she dodged the DNA test and everything else, which again further solidifies what the DNA test would have said. Because we still to this day have never had a DNA test.
How
And
old is
so,
the girl now?
huh?
How old is she now?
She would be 12. She'd be 12. She'll be turning 12 soon.
Y'all got 6 more years.
Yep. And been paying this whole time. And that's what's crazy because it's like, and even my husband for the longest time was like, oh, well, I mean, we would every holiday, we would buy 5 Easter baskets. We would buy 5 Valentines. We would buy 5 holiday, pajamas for Christmas and stuff like that. And then it was like, okay, look, we got to stop. At one point, do we stop doing this? Because we've got to live our life. I used to feel guilty for wanting to have more kids because it's like I want to have more kids but can't take care of this one over here. But again, the key word is can't. You see what I'm saying? Like I'm not gonna force my help onto anybody. I know I'm a damn good mother. I'm a damn good stepmom. I'm a damn good teacher. But again, I'm not gonna beg you to put myself in these positions where I'm constantly being used. And I think even as a whole, even as a biological mother, if Black women would stop and say, I don't even like kids for real. So yeah, we can hunch, but understand if something happens, I'm not having a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Because that's the issue. Like we have a lot of women that have kids that one, they don't even like, by a nigga they don't even like. And the only thing that we can think of that's going to make everything better is a paycheck. But at the end of the day, it's just like going to a job that you don't like. Yeah, you got a paycheck, but you drinking it all away because your job is making you depressed. Or yeah, you got a paycheck, but you're spending your money on other things and not paying your bills because your mental health is suffering and everything else. The same thing happens when you're parenting a child that you don't want and don't like and never wanted just because you're getting a paycheck for it. Because parenting don't stop like
Mm-hmm.
at all. I had to do a turnaround trip, a 2-hour trip one way this weekend for one kid's band performance just to get back to the other kid's football performance and time change. And then I'm up at 8 o'clock in the morning teaching other people's kids. You see what I'm saying? So why would I sit there and take on more kids that I don't even want just because I'm getting a paycheck? But essentially, that's the same. That's the same thing with a baby mama epidemic. And let's be honest, these paychecks, for the most part, that we're getting for these kids are not what they're worth. So then you get to complain about that as well. Oh, he only giving me $300. Okay, well then stop. Then stop. If it's only $300, then just stop. Because you're going back and forth. Either give the child to the kid or whatever. Because you can say what you want. Oh, he's this and that. Well, nigga, so are you.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like I can say whatever I want about my ex-husband, but what am I? He cusses in front of the kids. So do I. He don't cook them a 3-course meal every night. Neither do I. He forgets to pack their lunch or he forgets to sign field trip permission slips. So do I. Or he needs help with figuring out insurance or whatever. So do I. And so again, what's the real issue? What's the real issue? And the issue with, back child support and stuff like that, because in fact, I got all these out for you guys just to show y'all. This is like, I'm the paperwork queen. Simply, when I told you I don't talk about stuff I don't know, this was our first battle. This was only 6 months worth of battles. And then back here, I got all this, because what I'm not going to do is play with people about their money or their children. Like, I keep it all. But like, when you look at the amount of time that you have to put into being a parent, it's like, why are so many people doing it if they don't want to do it? It don't make any sense for a paycheck. It's not even a paycheck. Like you said, it's only this much money or whatever. Ain't nobody making Matt Barnes money. And then look what happened. He got all his kids and now she looking crazy.
That's a fact.
So
what do you think the problem is? Do you think it's more so a lot of bitter women?
I don't think it's a matter of, well, I don't think there's a general problem. I should say that. And if there is a general problem, as cliche as it sounds, there's a lack of love in general. There, whether it's self-love, whether it's that those generational curses that are being passed down, whether it's lack of understanding what real love is in relationships, whether it's the lack of ability to love your own children. There's so much of a lack of love, because again, there are just certain things that I'm not going to put up with because I'm a mother. I'm gonna let some things slide that most people won't, because I'm a mother, because it's more important to me that my children grow up and they can say, I grew up in a safe house. I grew up in a healthy house. I grew up knowing that my parents love me. And I grow up knowing that I can run home. I can go home anytime I want to. But I teach high schoolers that in a couple months, they think they have to get out and never come back. But
do you think it's good for parents? And I've heard this conversation. People talk about this a lot as well. Like, my kids have an open space in the house, but I also tell them, like, look, don't leave. Stay home till you're ready.
Don't leave.
You ain't coming back. I tell, and my daughter tell you, I ain't leaving because I ain't ready to leave home yet. My mother, like, if I leave, don't come back. I mean, so many people, I think, push kids out at a young age, and they just not, they're not ready. And that could be the position. Maybe the child look like the daddy, or that.
But that, that's been going on in the Black community for a minute now. If you think about it, you know what I mean. And your parents be like, "You turn 18, you getting up out of here."
That's been a part of that's only been, and this is me getting on my soapbox because I'm a tad bit racist, if you will. That's been a part of the Black community since it's been colonialized. If you go back to any indigenous Black community, we lived in community. We lived in a generational household where you would see grandmothers and great grandmothers and aunts and uncles and wives, if you were polyamorous and things like that, and they all lived together. We need to get rid of that notion that that's only a Hispanic thing or that's only a Native American thing. No, like, that's not how. That's a colonial thing. That's a white America thing. That's definitely a European thing. If you think about how Europe was set up, they had kings and queens that had castles that had gates around the castle to keep them away from the people you're supposed to be protecting. That's a colonial thing. That's not a Black thing. That's not an inherently Black thing. And so that is one of those things, just like with breastfeeding and everything else. People be like, well, Black women don't breastfeed. Black women used to be wet nurses during slavery. We are the queens of breastfeeding. So stop telling people that Black women don't breastfeed. We pretty much, we breastfed half the white people running around here calling us niggas right now. You see what I'm saying? But when you're taught, we've colonized education and we've colonized even our own history so much that we don't realize that what we think is part of our history is not even part of our history. Yeah, it's part of what we experience, and I'm not going to deny that. You're right. It was part of okay, go to college, whatever, but at 18 you got to get out. But if you think about what was done to our family units after we left Africa and once we got here, yeah, the strongest people had to leave. Yeah, you got to get out because now you've got to go make money for this person. You made money for that people and you never came back home. That's a slavery thing. That's a colonizer thing. That's not a black thing. When we were left to ourselves, baby, we were in community. And that's how I live. And it's funny because that's how I live my life. Like people think that I'm crazy, but they're like, after you've traveled the world and you've been in the military, like, why did you come back to Shreveport, Louisiana? Because my daddy stays down the street on this side, and my mother-in-law stay down the street on this side. And I'm up under my parents all the time. I'm up under my sister all the time. My nieces and nephews are over here all the time. They all go to the same school. If my sister get off work late, I can pick up the kids. If I cook a big pot of beans and ain't nobody gonna eat it, I can tell my kids to walk it over to Papa's house. And we live in community because it just makes more sense. It doesn't make sense to say get out at 18, but then you also haven't taught them anything. Because what they gonna do at 18?
Yeah, I come from a dysfunctional family, but I'm gonna tell you, everybody in them, I think everybody was sleeping on top of each other. That's how many people were in the house. So, I mean, you get put out, you come to grandma's house. Wherever you come to grandma's house.
Yep. And
It's
that's
like,
how my dad was raised. There was like 14 of them growing up. And so they were getting put out at 18 simply because they needed the space. Like somebody got to sleep on this couch, so you got to go. Like if you 18, somebody else is using this corner of the bed. So yeah, you getting put out at 18 because we just don't have the space anymore.
Time to go.
Right.
well, you also it could have went both ways. You also had a lot of households where the bedrooms were taken up because you had the grown men in there that wouldn't leave. Stayed home.
So it's so child support is just one of the issues that you advocate against. What other rights do you advocate against, as far as when it comes to fathers?
When it comes to fathers, and this is gonna sound crazy, I also advocate pro-choice, and I say that to say this: because now we got the pro-choice and the pro-life agenda being pushed again. Here is my issue. The more we push the pro-life agenda, which pro-choice, if you want to break it down, is really pro-life, but that's a whole nother soapbox. Once we start taking away women's rights to choose to be mothers again, now we can further justify not fixing the child support system, because we can say women don't have a right, they've got to have this baby, and this man got to take care of this baby. But here's the issue where we're at now, and this is the real reason behind why Roe versus Wade came back up again. Because child support was getting pushed for reform, right? There's this big reform going on that's saying, hey, if a woman can give up her rights to a child, whether it be abortion, whether it be adoption, whether it be foster care. I'm actually in the process of fostering my niece right now. My sister does not have to pay me child support. The state will give me money for the child because she will be in the foster care system. My sister will have no rights. She doesn't have to come back and see the child ever again. I can never sue her for child support, anything like that. A man cannot do that. So make that make sense. So instead of giving men the same right to be able to say, I don't want to be a daddy and I want to keep all my money, now we got Roe versus Wade coming back up. That's the real reason. It's not about, oh, we care about these unborn babies and stuff like that. No, the real reason is because we said, wait. If women get the right to do this, men should be able to do this. And instead of fixing the issue, they said, okay, cool, we'll just take away women's rights. So now ain't nobody got it right. Now women have to have a baby and the men have to pay for it, or vice versa. That's the real reason behind that. And so when
they give y'all more resources.
Yeah, for sure.
You know
For
what I'm
sure, because
saying?
even my dad, as a single dad, active duty military, he had no idea that he qualified for food stamps. He had no idea he qualified for things like WIC. We were never on food stamps, and we're broke. Like there were some days that we made hamburger helper with bologna, but my dad was active duty military, so explain that. But again, like you said, he wasn't given those resources as a single dad because their solution to that was just give the kids to the mom and pay child support. But how
Yeah,
is that a solution? Because like we literally had to hunt that woman down for years. She was gone. Like she went back overseas and everything else. Like we literally did not know where she was for years. So again, even if he wanted to give us back, how? You see what I'm saying? So it's like you can't on one hand say women have the right to not be mothers if they don't want to, but men don't. So again, instead of fixing the issue and saying, all right, you're right, men should be able to say, nope, I don't want it either. They said, okay, we'll just take away women's rights again. That's how we'll fix that. Because again, now we get the pushback from all the child support incentives and everything else, and we get the lobbyist money from all the conservatives and all that kind of stuff and everything else. So now we get all the money we needed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, so what do you think about these transgender people trying to take away our labels?
What is your label though?
I mean, y'all women, females, like they're trying to remove them, and like a pregnant woman supposed to be. I forgot what they said it's supposed to be called, but they saying crazy things like y'all don't control periods, and I'm like, you a man, you can't have no period, bro.
Here's the thing though. If it ain't got nothing to do with you, ain't got nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
What you mean?
Are
I'm
you
confused.
a period?
Who?
You ain't never gonna get a period, right? I am.
No.
But you sitting, even if you said, but Genevieve, I want to be called this and blah blah blah, and I'm gonna have cool. Simply, that ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm gonna go to bed tonight with my big strong husband. He got two gold teeth, right? He a better two gold teeth. But I'm gonna go to bed with my husband and do what I got to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then
No
in 30
doubt.
days, hopefully, I'm gonna get a period, and I'm gonna do what I got to do then. I
But I'm
don't
saying like
know.
I'm saying like in the father's advocate, ain't that right there causing issues too? With
Mm-mm.
these men trying to be women?
No. Why would that cause an issue? What?
Because if they got
Give
kids
me an
out,
give me an
if they got
example of an
kids out
issue.
here, they confusing these babies if they got kids out here.
I actually think some gay couples are better parents than straight couples.
Gay couples getting divorced now.
Look at the Brad and Judy. That baby is loved.
Yeah.
See this, and this is the thing. Your gender and who you sleep with and everything else is not a big deal until you make it a big deal. Like
Yeah, but see,
out of my five kids, I have a kid that is queer. She don't really know why, like what she's queer. You know what I'm saying? Like she doesn't have a label or whatever. It's not a big deal because it's not a big deal. You 15, you're not hunching anybody, right? But we also have the talks like biologically, you were born a female. Biologically, this is going to happen every 28 to 30 days. That's something that cannot be changed. If you want me to call you by a different name, a different pronoun, or whatever, that's fine. But there are certain things that are simply just not going to change right now. You see what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, what she has going on isn't going to change the fact if she wants to be a mother one day, that's cool. If she wants to be a stepmother one day, that's cool. If she decides that she's a boy and wants to be a father one day, it doesn't matter because if she's raising whoever she's in charge of raising in love in a healthy and a safe environment, I would much prefer that than for it to be like, oh, you have two moms, or oh, you have two dads, or oh, you're calling yourself a woman, but you have like it doesn't. I don't know. It's just like when we were talking earlier when you were like, I don't really know how to pronounce your name. Just call me whatever. Like it's not gonna just like with my students. When I start the year off and I start call and roll, I always ask them, do you have a nickname? Do you even before the genders and everything else became an issue, because I've been teaching for a long time, I would always ask my students, is there something else you prefer to be called?
Mm-hmm.
Because not everybody can pronounce Genevieve. So if you want to call me V, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
If one day I got my hair wrapped and I look like a boy to you and you call me sir, I'm not going to get offended, because again, I know who I go home and sleep with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I know what this thing be thinging, so it don't, you know what I'm saying? So like at the end of the day, that and father's rights to me are two completely separate issues. Like they're both issues, but they're two separate issues.
I would agree. I would
Yeah.
agree. Parenting and having a child is different than your preference.
Definitely. All right, as we let's wind this up and wind this down. Let me ask this last question here. In what ways do you believe society can better celebrate and recognize the contribution of the fathers that are doing the right thing?
Speak on it. It's just like, I don't know, and I never really like to compare two things, but I always compare this fight.
Froze on us. She froze on us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm freezing like her.
Kingdom, I agree with you, but I think there's certain, like, if I'm dealing with
Can y'all see me now?
yeah, you
I'm
Yeah,
back.
you froze.
I'm back. I forgot we were talking about that quick.
No, I said you said for them to speak up, like far as the fathers, that
Yeah, I
is
mean,
doing the right thing.
bad news travels fast, and it's always, you always hear about what this guy ain't do or what that guy ain't do, and say what you want, but I'm gonna always hype my man up. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't care if it can be the smallest thing to anybody else, and that's not me trying to brag, but speaking on the things when they happen, even if it is a small thing of, oh, the dad showed up to the school meeting versus the mom or whatever, acknowledge those things. I always, or even my students, like the ones that are named Junior and things like that, I'll be like, oh, okay, you named after your daddy, my son's named after his daddy too, and you just always, the more you acknowledge it and make it common, that's when you take the stigma off of it. Because I've never, and I'll be honest, like I've never met a ain't shit dad that didn't have a reason why. And not to justify the ones that I have met, but all I'm saying is, if you speak to somebody and if you let somebody be who they're supposed to be, they're going to grow. They're going to grow into that. Most of us, when we become mothers, we didn't know immediately. I remember the first time I breastfed my first child. Shit, baby, I can see why people don't do this. Go on and run me that formula. Go on, give me all the formula you got, because I'm not doing this. And then here I am 5 years later, and I done breastfed, I think, a total of 10 years of my life. You see what I'm saying? But
phone breaking up, her video breaking up.
You freezing again.
Mm-hmm. I think that fathers don't get enough credit. A lot of them, the good dads, they don't get enough credit. And this thing on Father's Day, I'm the mom and the dad. That's the only thing that I think that ruffles, like, women. You can't be a dad. Give dads their day. Give dads their credit.
yeah, I always go all out on Father's Day. We do, like, I do a gift to my husband on Father's Day, and then I do one from each of the kids, because I feel like, hell, you're not my dad. I mean, he is my daddy, but he's not my daddy. So it's like, I give him a gift for giving me all these kids, but then I make sure that the kids acknowledge him, as a dad and stuff like that. I feel like men need more acknowledgement. They need to be spoken to how you want them to act. Just like with You know, just like with anybody else, like if I went to school every day and told because some of my students are lower level, that's why I teach the classes that I teach. But if I went into class every day and been like, y'all know y'all lower level, y'all know y'all in my class because they don't think y'all going to college and blah, what would that do to them? You know what I'm saying? But no, I still talk to my students like, hey, if you want to go to college, let's do this, this, and this. Or if you don't, let's do this, this, and this. Why don't we speak to our men the same way? Why don't we speak to our fathers the same way? You see what I'm saying? Like in most men, because of the way their egos are, they're words of affirmation type of men. Like that's their love language. Even if they say they're not, I promise you that man gonna give you some good stuff if you tell him that you appreciate him.
I agree.
If you acknowledge something small that he did. You see what I'm saying? Like my husband put gas in my car
the code.
Look, he put gas in my car the other day. Sir, do you want white gravy or brown gravy with these pork chops?
I know that's right. Do you want your feet massaged?
Sir, because he knows I hate going to the grocery store. But it's like
I love a man with pretty feet.
Yeah.
That sounds like another podcast.
I know, because I will massage feet. I ain't got no problems with that.
Well, you can keep your feet to yourself. Miss Murphy, Miss Murphy, we definitely appreciate you coming out tonight and giving us your point of view on these fathers out here and the help that they need. Like, it's a lot of men on here complaining about child support too, as well. I was watching this lady on TikTok. She was saying that the Supreme Court made child support unconstitutional or something like that.
And it should be.
Do it.
And it should be. Let me show you some. Hold on. Let me pull out my little binder. This is the binder that I made when Corona first hit. What was that? 2020, right? So, my husband was in the oil field at the time, and of course, got laid off like everybody did. Child support payments didn't stop. Not only did they not stop, but he was then in the arrears and had to pay interest on child support. And I get the argument of, but my baby still got to eat and blah, 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 blah. But check this. He's my husband. We live in the same household. If he does not have a job at the moment, I can't get blood from a turnip. I still got to figure out, as the woman of the house, as the mother of these kids, I still got to figure out how to pay this mortgage, how to pay this light bill. So why don't she? Make it make sense. Like if we're talking about equality and equity and everything else, if I'm the wife who also has the children and we're in the same household and he's not bringing in any money to my household, how does he then owe this household arrears? So can I collect arrears too as a wife? Because I feel like that's not fair to him.
And it ain't even his child.
That's keeping a man while he's down. Because again, when I get pregnant, the first thing my husband do is tell me to sit down. Mm-hmm. He don't then come back and say, all right, you sat down for 9 months, 2 years or whatever. This is how much the light bill was these 2 years you were sitting down. Run me my money. So why does she get to do that? Mm-hmm. It does not make sense. And again, this look at this receipts during Corona where we sent all the paperwork. Hey, he lost his job. He don't have any money to give. Everybody else is getting all these forgivenesses and these stimulus and everything else. Again, he was oil field. We didn't qualify for stimulus payments. We didn't qualify for any of this other help, the food stamps and everything else everybody else was getting. But we owe somebody money that's getting support that we're not getting. Mm-hmm. Because she qualified for the food stamp. She qualified for the Medicaid. She qualified for this and that. We didn't. But then we're also having to give something that we don't have to somebody that's getting help that we're not getting.
I have a question. So they wouldn't reduce the payments because he lost his job? Because typically you can go back and file a motions, can't you, to reduce?
Get this, Miss Confidence. We just got a letter. What year is this? 2023? Mm-hmm. Saying that they've received our request for a child support modification.
3 years later.
So, baby, by now we broke. You see what I'm saying? Like, if we weren't in the position we are financially, if I wasn't the woman I am, because I'm not gonna let my husband get into the arrears, we gonna pay the bill. Imagine where we would be financially.
Yeah.
Imagine what that does to a black man who's already lost his job. We're in a pandemic. Oh, by the way, I was pregnant at the time of the pandemic with our youngest. So that's number 5 in the household. And now you telling me I ain't shit and I got to do this, this, and that when I can't even, like, I can't do what I'm normally doing. And my husband is a provider. Like, that man is a provider. And I say that in the financial way because that's what everybody's concerned about. He will cut a check real quick. But when you're that type of man and you're laid off and you're in quarantine and you have a pregnant wife with 3 other kids at home who is also not going to work and everything else, and you ask for help, you submit all the paperwork you're supposed to submit, you do all the things that you're supposed to do, and 3 years later, you've received the request for modification and it's under review. Well, now he's back to work. Mm-hmm. So now when you ask for pay stubs, he's going to have pay stubs. He didn't have pay stubs 3 years ago when we first asked for it. Mm-hmm. But are you going to backdate it? No, you're not. Plus, we've already paid it. But again, what does that do to a black man who already has the world on his back? Mm-hmm. Well, now I see why you're angry. Now I see why you don't want to take the next bitch on a date. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Because the last date cost me a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Which, again, I'm just saying things that makes sense because he's the man of my household. I'm not getting arrears for him. When he didn't have it, I just had to fill in the gap. Mm-hmm. So why you not have to fill in the gap? Mm-hmm. Y'all never were married. You see what I'm saying? Like when Corona happened, I didn't reach out to my ex-husband who was still active in the military, who was still getting a paycheck, who could have helped. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, by the way, you got some kids over here. We're not working. I ain't never asked you for nothing. Can I have some money? No, because that's his household that he has to maintain. I don't know what he's got going on over there. So it's not fair for me to ask, hey, give me some of what you got going on over here because I'm not doing good over here when we already said we've got 2 different households.
I wonder if people can file a open class lawsuit on taxes because that would be unconstitutional, forcing, and not even just Texas, other states.
So if you Google
pay children that are not theirs.
If you Google Attorney General Ken Paxton, he is the Attorney General in the part of Texas that we're at. He's actually under investigation right now for fraud and laundering and favors and stuff like that. And he's the presiding Attorney General over the child support courts here in Texas. Like he's on our child support order, and he's been under investigation since before COVID, and nothing has come up from it. Like the current child support order that's in place right now for my husband is not even signed by my husband, but they try to enforce it.
And it gotta be. So I'm surprised a lawyer can't fight that.
Well, he can, but the first 2 years of our marriage, we spent over $20,000 just to get to where we are now, and that's for her to leave us alone.
Well, I want to say this to Miss Confidence and Miss Murphy. Y'all
say my first name. Say my first name.
Miss Genevieve and Miss Confidence. Y'all have a good night.